Hello and welcome. We're excited to continue the future of work conversation with this one-on-one session. The future of work depends on diversity and inclusion as part of the Techlandia Summit, a week-long online conference focused on delivering better community outcomes through improved infrastructure and quality of life, efficient service delivery, sustainability, equitable growth, and long-term resilience. That is a mouthful. I'm Cara Snow, Chief Community Engagement Officer at the Technology Association of Oregon, and I'll be your facilitator of this session along with Justin Martinez, Event and Program Coordinator at TAO, who will be coordinating our back-end support. A couple of quick rules of engagement before we start. Everyone has been muted, so please stay on mute unless one of us on the TAO staff unmutes you and calls on you to talk. You can respond or ask questions in the chat box publicly or privately. You can direct them to me or TAO admin. We'll monitor the chat box and respond throughout the discussion. We'll ask you all to engage via the participant icon on your screen too. So if you have some burning question, raise your hand or do the yes check. Please engage with us on social during the session. We're excited to share what's happening. Jay, I don't know if you want to dump your Twitter handle into the chat box, but you can always get some tweeting. And then a huge thank you to all the investors in the Techlandia Summit. We appreciate their sponsorship and are excited to explore topics related to economic resiliency, future of work, human factors, and mobility throughout the rest of the week. And finally, it is my pleasure to introduce the President and CEO of the H.J. Russell Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, also known as RCIE, and fellow University of Georgia Bulldog, Jay Bailey.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Good morning, Jay. I guess it's afternoon in Atlanta, but thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no, it's so good to be here.
It's a pleasure. So we're going to jump right into it.
Sure.
I know you, but not everybody on this call does. So can you share a little bit about your background, especially as an entrepreneur? And then the two-part question, how does that influence the work that you're doing at the Russell Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which really does focus on Black entrepreneurship?
Oh, absolutely. How far do you want to go back? I mean, the short story for me, and I guess I'll go into the reason that entrepreneurship means so much to me. I'm the kid that started his first business at 12. I bought my first house at 19. I made my first million by the time I was 25. I didn't have really good money role models. Nobody in my sphere of influence understood business at a high level. So I went from living in a 10,000 square foot home in a private country club neighborhood to 3.5 years later, literally being homeless, sleeping in a 9x9 storage unit in Tucker, Georgia. It was there where I had my great epiphany. By the world standards, I had been successful, but I had zero significance. I had done nothing to put a dent in this world. And as I started chasing that road to significance, things started to change for me. But when you talk about my entrepreneurial journey, the baseline of why it means so much to be where I am right now is I was a really hustling kid. I was the kid who used to make popsicles in the ice tray, sell them for $0.25. Cara, I was so cold with it. I used to charge people 50 cents to fight in my backyard so they wouldn't get caught in the front yard. I had all of this economic energy. I had all of this hustle and this grit and this grind, but it really didn't have a name for it. Back then we were just called hustlers. I was riding my bike to the barbershop, and in a part of town where you don't leave anything unlocked. When I was growing up, you could have put a Bentley next to a Ferrari, and I would have taken a Mustang GT 5.0 every day of the week. And parked illegally in front of that barbershop was a black on black convertible Mustang GT, and I lost my mind. I'm 11 years old. I throw my bike down, I run into the barbershop, and I scream, "Whose car is that?" And my barber's just cutting somebody's hair, and he kind of just gives me the nod. That's the universal brother symbol for that's me. I sit in his chair, and because of where I was from, the first question I asked, because nobody working a regular job could afford that car in my mind. And so I asked him, as a matter of factly, as I asked about the well, I was like, "John, I know you were a dope boy." And he screamed at me, used the big F word, shut the up and turn around and count how many chairs you see in this shop. And I said 10. He says, well, each one of these barbers pays me $50 a week to cut hair in my shop. Do the math, Jay. You're smart. So I did the math. He says, hold on, before you finish, well, I have two more shops like this. Finish the math. So little Jay Bailey was like 000, comma, carry the one. And he said it. He said, son, I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own business. And what you need to do is find you something that you love and go make money doing it. Fundamentally changed my life. That bike ride home, I looked at everything differently. Who owns the tire shop there? The public library, who owns it? Mom, dad, do we own our house? We do. Self-esteem, self-confidence goes up. I own it. There's pride in ownership. The knock-on effect of that one instance is that I started my first business because my interest was in car stereo equipment. I taught myself how to install car stereo equipment, and at the age of 12, created the House of Boom. I built speaker enclosures, installed radios, the whole nine. But what happened, the byproduct of that, I was a horrible student in school, hated school. And this is how you and I can connect. Very smart, branded, gifted, but just treated school like construction work. At 3 o'clock, here's my hard hat, here's my lunch pail, I'll see you guys later. Well, if I was doing that work today, it'd be called STEM education. I had to understand ohms and wattage and how to measure a cubic foot of airspace. So my aspiration to be successful in business met my need for education. School became relevant and I took off. I wasn't there just for my mother saying, Jay, you can do better, or my teacher saying, you're so smart, but you're just not committed. No, I was there to learn to become dangerous, to be a good business person. So AP Calculus, AP Physics, I started to take these courses and their weighted grade point averages, got my GPA up just enough to qualify for the Hope Scholarship that they offered in Georgia to go to the University of Georgia so you and I can say, go Dogs.
Yep.
Entrepreneurship throughout my life, and I'm sure we'll get into it perhaps, has been this ever ebb and flow. But at the end of the day, you know, when we start talking about innovation and the way forward, I'm just a firm believer. I don't know about where you guys are, but every city has a north side of the town and south side of the tracks. And in Atlanta, it's Bankhead and Buckhead. And I firmly believe that the only difference between the north side of the tracks and the south side of the tracks is access, opportunity, and exposure. That's it. Kids on the north side want to become doctors, lawyers, consultants, want to be tech entrepreneurs and run businesses. Kids on the south side want to be rappers, athletes, and dope dealers. Why? It's not because they're not both brilliant. Those pathways, and I think that we lose GDP every year because we have a very large percentage of our population that's not participating in the economy. Those great ideas that are occurring up here are not seeing their way to the marketplace. And you can't tell me that there's somebody more innovative on the planet than a single mother with 2 kids making 17 grand a year. The way that she thinks, the grit that she has, and the way that she makes it happen year after year, if I could channel those good ideas about solving problems and making things work and funnel it and weaponize it with ideas going to marketplace, we'd change the whole game. So when we get into the conversation about the future of work, the conversation about the future of work has to include a conversation about including more of the population in what the future looks like.
Yeah, and when we talked on, I love that. Thank you. I've heard you tell that story so many times, and no matter how many times I hear it, it never ceases to inspire me. Young Jay doing the math. So we were talking earlier this week, and you just kind of touched on it. We talked about where we first intersected, right, in this community, and you talked about 2 communities in the city of Atlanta, and we have those in Portland, right? There's the north side and the south side, or a west side and an east side. So you talk about this concept of community and an entrepreneurial spirit that goes beyond tech, and you do a good job of tying back your speaker business to really being tech-centric, but you also started the story with the barbershop and ownership of the businesses. So we would consider that, I think, you and I, a Main Street company. So in this context of community and entrepreneurial spirit beyond tech, how do you make Main Street companies more sustainable? Like, what would an investment strategy look like that's more equitable for entrepreneurs and investors?
Sure. We've got to start thinking about it differently. For every listener, for you right now, Cara, just think about this past 10 days. And how much money did you spend with a tech company? More importantly, a tech startup. Tech startups don't drive our economy. They enable it, yes, but Main Street businesses for the longest time, all the data supports, the numbers are there. That's what drives the economy, incremental spends in small businesses. But when we look at resources for those Main Street businesses that many times are tech enabled, there just aren't many. I'm a firm believer in community, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but we have got to look at new sources of capital, new ways to think about capital, ways to, when you think about who creates the jobs in communities, the community, I don't know if is it the east side that's probably worse off than the west side in Portland?
Yeah.
Is that way. But those jobs that aren't present on the east side, those people that live on the east side, it's not going to be tech startups that provide jobs, hope, and aspiration on that side of town. We've got to look at, if we're going to move the economic needle in any city, how do we start to look at supporting those companies? And part of my strategy and theory of change is around, a lot of times we always focus on curriculum or capital. We don't give enough conversation to community. For everybody on the call, I think I talked to you last week when we were talking, or this week when we were talking, Cara, around, we both said go Dogs when we talked about both attending the University of Georgia. We said nothing about any class that we took. And if we go to, oh, you guys are in Oregon, so you got the Ducks.
Oh, yeah.
You go to a Ducks game and ask 100 Oregon alum about their experience while they matriculated, have them talk for 2 minutes about their experience at Oregon. Not a single one of them is going to bring up a single class that they took. It wasn't about the curriculum. It wasn't about the syllabus. It was about the community, the culture, the covenant of what it meant to be a duck, a mighty duck. And literally they wrapped it around a world-class curriculum with world-class professors. And that's what made Oregon what Oregon is. So we've got to lead with that very same thing. Inherently, entrepreneurship and the journey of a small business owner is lonely. It's isolated. It's built into a silo. You throw being a minority in there, and you got a double whammy of that. And if we don't start thinking about community and being able to be collaborative, to share resources, because capital can come in many forms. It doesn't always have to be a check. If we're looking at revenue-driven companies where they just need more customers, they don't need investments that'll take away equity from their business, how are some creative ways we can look at raising capacity? And I think that we oftentimes look at the episodic program approach, come to this 2-day workshop, come to this 5-week program, come to this 12-week program, and those are needed. I'm not saying they're not needed, but just like at Oregon, classes are necessary. But those dorms are necessary. The fraternities and sororities are necessary. The clubs are necessary. All of the things that make a college experience whole, that make people want to attend. How boring would Oregon be if you didn't have a football program at all? If there were no parties, if there was no downtown life, and it was just classes. And that's how we look at moving the needle for entrepreneurs, and that's just the wrong approach. Small business owners. If we don't wrap around community and culture to that, where they feel that everything is possible, that they can get the support that they need with a phone call. If there's a gap that they have the access and opportunity to close that gap. Remember, access, opportunity, exposure. That will be kind of the continuing theme through everything I talk about. That community is necessary just as much as capital. And for a lot of these small businesses, they're not VC companies anyway. But I think the language of the day around capital all revolves around VCs and angels, et cetera. And that just may not be the best source of capital for them. So we can close the education gap by making sure businesses know the right source of capital for their growth trajectory and have the conversation about where your business is now and where it's trying to go. And let's match it with the right source of capital. It may be some more patient capital on the other side of that. Maybe there's a bank debt product that would actually fill your need. But then on the other side of that, we can close the education gap. We can also close the preparation gap. Because if an organization like yours has the connectivity with these banks and these VCs and these funding sources, I can make sure before I connect small business owner A to funding source B, that small business owner A is prepared to have the conversation at the table. If they need 10 things to underwrite and say yes, before I make that introduction, they have all 10 things in place. It's not just about the funding. It's about the self-esteem, the confidence in knowing that I am prepared to go get the resources I need to grow. It all works together. And if we don't start looking at a whole entrepreneur, whole business owner approach, we're going to lose.
And that's really the way that y'all are doing work at the Russell Center. That's the approach that you're taking. And you used some phrases that I loved earlier this week, because you've just moved beyond that. Like, that sense of community has to be more than the burst of support. It's more than just
burst of support. I'm going to steal that. Yeah.
No, that was yours.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I'll steal it.
Yeah, you said that. You said that. Because like a burst of support is an introduction, right? But it's not the prep of like, here's what you're going to need, and here's how you need to go into that conversation, and here's how you're going to be successful coming out of it. Like that's more than a burst of support. Because the other phrase you used was, symbols of hope. And those are not holistic approaches to this ecosystem. Okay, so I love this. So where do you see, you kind of talked about this already, so I'm actually going to skip that. So we need to talk a little bit about the future of work in the next 12-ish minutes, and we'll open it up for some questions. But when we talk about tech and we see the effect of artificial intelligence, and I went and checked out that McKinsey report around the future of work, if you are Black.
Yep.
And that automation is disrupting African-American and Black folks at a much higher rate because of the jobs where they are overrepresented in terms of support roles. So in addition to fostering this entrepreneurship and innovation, like how do you do that in a community of displaced workers where their jobs have been eliminated because of tech, and then there's not the self-esteem and there's not the exposure. So like how do you then take this group and foster entrepreneurship? And to your point about the single mom, like how do you get her ideas to market?
It's the harsh reality that's hard to talk about is there will be some casualties. Everybody's not cut out to be an entrepreneur. That's just real. But on the other side, the hopeful side of that is if there are more Black entrepreneurs, more Black small business owners, all the data supports that they're more likely to hire Black people. The McKinsey study is a bit of a blow in looking at the impact of automation and the future of work on the Black community is going to be terrible. And to prepare for that to happen, what I told you, the other side of that conversation about symbols of hope, these bursts of support, is we need less symbols of hope and more institutions that manufacture it.
I love that.
And I think that part of the reason, and I'll stay with the Oregon model, because a lot of what we developed at RCIE is literally just a stolen model from the college model on how you educate. Call it our HBCU for entrepreneurship, just like you have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And I'll answer your question, but I phrase it this way in that the University of Oregon can always be the aspiration point for any kid that grows up in Portland. They can know it's there, they can see it, they may get to go a game, they may sell Cokes at halftime, they can walk on the campus. If it was just a program, they'd never be able to do that. Right. There is no real symbol of aspiration. And I think aspiration is one of those constructs that very rarely gets brought up in the conversation, but it has to. People become doctors because they saw doctors and got inspired by them. People become lawyers because they saw lawyers and were inspired by them. I became an entrepreneur because my barber whispered something one time in my ear that caught fire and it lit my aspiration. So we cannot understate the power of aspiration, because so many people that were exiting the job force because of automation were never told or had never believed that they could do it on their own. Yeah. They've never believed that their ideas had merit, had value, and there was something that they could do to make money off of their great ideas. At the heart of entrepreneurship is someone that solved a problem that was faced in the marketplace. And nobody understands problems more than disadvantaged communities, period. So, part of our secret sauce is creating a space, a physical manifestation of what belief in hope looks like. to at least introduce you to the concept, because again, back to college model, colleges spend lots of money recruiting students by simply bringing them to the campus, giving them an idea of what is possible. You know how you recruit a football player? You get a jersey and you put his name on it, and you get him to walk out into the center of the field, and you get him to announce his name over the loudspeakers, and he feels like he or she belongs. That's how you recruit top D1 talent.
Yeah.
You set the aspiration. And so if we don't include that, especially we got people exiting the workforce who've never been trained how to run a business, probably have never heard of a balance sheet or a P&L, probably have never really looked at the cycle of how do you go from ideation all the way through customer acquisition and adoption. Nobody's told you that, because if you want to be a lawyer, there are top law schools you can go to. You want to be a doctor, top medical schools. You want to run a VC fund, top business schools, Harvard, you name it. You want to be an entrepreneur or a small business owner, good luck.
Yeah.
There is no pathway. And so in creating that system that's designed to combat a system, there's been a system that's designed to look at growth and scale and development to combat a system that has always worked against them for the Black community. And in that space, now I know where I can go. Because if Portland's anything like Atlanta, everybody has a program. This is a program. There's a panel here, and there are probably 50 more this month, all talking about future of work or making the pivot or being an entrepreneur, or how can you make money on the side? And if I'm trying to raise my kids and maybe keep a second job, I don't have the bandwidth to figure it all out.
Right.
A lot of activity in space, very little concentration. And I think concentration is necessary for anything that's transformative, and why an organization like yours increases in value, because you have the capacity to channel and concentrate the best resources in your region to weaponize them to serve those that need it most. And these organizations become the conveners of the information, and they can kind of sort out all the BS that happens all over the space, because there are predators out there like you wouldn't believe, because they know that people are hurting right now economically. Yeah. I've seen the numbers of people just to fill out PPP and what they're charging people. And because people are desperate, I've seen people charge people $4,000 and $5,000 up front, and then a commission on the back end just to fill out an application. That there are multiple sources that you could get it for free, but because people are afraid, people take advantage. I'm a little nervous about all of it.
Yeah, it's scary, and we don't know what it's going to look like. And I love that too, the concentration, because I think sometimes it's really easy to get distracted, and we've seen that even just in the last 3 weeks. What is our role when it comes to the conversation around equity in Black and Brown communities? Because we have this tech overlay, and so where do we have that concentration, and what is our role? And so it's good to hear from you that there's the aspirational piece, but there's also what we've always done for other businesses, which is be the resource for that. And from an equity standpoint, maybe it's just a little more work to make sure that a Black or Brown founder is prepped a different way before they have that conversation. So that's really astute. Thank you. Okay, we're close to being where we say goodbye to you, and we continue in a breakout session to come up with some ideas for moving forward, which is a bummer, because I'm like loving this. I actually am sad I don't get to see you nearly as much in person.
Oh, it's all good. Planes will open up soon again.
Then I'll come for a visit.
I'm coming to Oregon.
We're supposed to play football against each other in 2022, just as we are supposed to play against these Oregon folks. So we're going to close.
Yes, ma'am.
And here's my question for you. It's, again, two-part questions. I did really good on the two-part questions.
Two-part question.
Where is the greatest opportunity for Black-led innovation and entrepreneurship as you see it today? And what can non-Black folks do to support that, in your opinion?
Wow, that's a tough one. Did y'all send me the questions early? I would have loved to think on this one for a little bit.
I did. I sent them to you, I think, really late Monday night. So
I didn't even see them. So here's the first thing, my first freestyle way of thinking about that. There are industries that Black and Brown people over-index in, but they never see any profit from. These industries must start because they're the users of the product, they're the super consumers of the products, but they never see any of that revenue coming back into community. You think of the hair care industry. I literally just got off the phone with the guy, Tristan Walker, if you heard the name. Tristan's like a superstar in the innovation space. If you're listening, guys, Google the name. He's a great friend of mine. But he was like this tech superhero in Silicon Valley, Adrian Horowitz, and all those kind of places in this big brain. But he went into the hair care space. He made a clipper and hair products, and he sold it to god awful millions to Procter and Gamble for the marketplace. Not high level tech, shavers and creams.
Yeah.
There's a multi-billion-dollar marketplace that is the African American consumer place, but from hair care to athletics to sports to just a number of different industries where Blacks over-index and see no revenue, there has to be a shift that occurs in innovation. The
That's
users
really...
of the products, the people that create the marketplace have to in some way capture some of the profits that come from that spend. And it's not happening now. So if there's, I say, people talk about only invest in things that you know. I think that first wave of innovation and that grab of wealth and that wealth transfer has to go with dominating industries that we dominate now only as consumers and not producers. And there's a way to do it because that mother of two with $17,000 a year, she's been thinking about it the whole time. If somebody just did this, they would do this and I'd do that. And if somebody got to take those ideas and get them to the marketplace, who knows what could happen? The second part of your question about what can non-Black people do, I mean, one, let's not be afraid of the conversation. Let's not be afraid to break some eggs right now. I can guarantee if most of the people on this call are white, and I'm looking at the names and I'm assuming most of them are not Black, maybe Sabrina Freeman or Freewin. Freewin may be a white name. Sabrina, you can just wave if that's white or Black. But let's be courageous enough to break some eggs and say the wrong thing, but at least have the authentic conversation if we're trying to move forward together. Right. If your intentions are pure and they're authentic, yes, you may say the wrong thing, but be courageous enough to say the wrong thing because that's the only way bridges are built. As we start to talk about, oh, she's white. There you go. Hey, Sabrina, got it. Your wife and you made up your name. Fantastic. Free win. I love it. Thank you, Sabrina. And so, but also when we talk about diversity and inclusion, here's one thing that I've been really pushing my corporate partners with in a narrative that I've been sending around the country. Everyone is quick to hire a chief diversity and inclusion officer. Mm. But here's the deal. If I'm in a room of 50 white people and you just make space for me because of inclusion, then I come in guarded, I come in shielded. I actually don't really benefit from being included all that much. If we don't add a construct of belonging, diversity, inclusion, and belonging, true belonging. So if I'm there, at least I feel like I'm a part of what you've created. I belong in some way. I'm not this outlier that was given special treatment. Belonging is a very, very powerful construct. And oftentimes we think the win is that Jay was allowed in the door. Well, that's not the win. If I don't get the benefit of the relationship building, of the connection, of the networking, and you don't see me eye to eye, you don't see a person, you just see an opportunity where you've given me the opportunity to be in the room, the magic doesn't happen there. And it never will. And I think oftentimes, we take the wrong approach, especially in the tech community, because think about it, guys. One of the things that I'm trying to do in Atlanta, be it Silicon Valley, Mountain View, Cambridge, the Research Triangle down in Raleigh, Durham, Austin, Texas, none of them have gotten the diversity thing right. None of them.
Nope.
And so, lots of them are making investments in Atlanta because there's a lot of diverse talent there. But again, I tell Black people, don't be afraid to say Black. I tell white people, don't be afraid to say Black, and let's look at the real issues. Let's not parse it out and get really skittish about saying minority or underrepresented or people of color, because if you parse out those numbers, there's a difference between an African-American entrepreneur, small business owner, and a Latino one. or an Asian,
Absolutely.
or these people that we group in people of color. Let's get really comfortable talking to each other and seeing each other. That's the only real way we're going to get to a stage of belonging where you and I, Cara, can ever really have a real conversation.
I agree. Pam just popped in there that's just finished reading a book titled Our Towns, with a central theme of belonging. And I appreciate that last statement, Jay, because it's so funny. When I got the script, everything said people of color, and I was the one that went and changed it to say Black because, but I'm also from a place where, like, I grew up just in a different racially diverse community than I think sometimes other folks did, and there's a comfort level that maybe is appropriate or maybe isn't, and it is nice to sit at a table with people that you consider your peers, and I appreciate you spending time with us. So you are officially done. A round of applause for Jay. That was awesome.
Whoever Ralph is, he sends me this private note that says, "This is not a club," in all caps. There are no fees. We just talk, support each other. I'm not even sure what that means, Ralph, but God bless you, brother. But no, thank you, Cara.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Jay, I had sent you a note earlier to tell you that there are some gentlemen that we get together. Forgive me. We get together once a month, and it's all African American men. And I sent you an invite to join. I wanted you to know that there's not a club.
I was like, what does that even mean? Gotcha, Ralph.
Yeah, it's just we get together, we support each other, we chat, and so forth. And so that's what the intention was.
Got it. See that belonging, brother. The intention. There we go. I got it. I was like, I wanted to address it since it got sent, but Ralph, shoot me I guess you've already sent me the invitation. I'll jump in.
Yeah, just send me your email and I will get you included.
Fantastic. Thank you, brother.
Good job.
Thank you so much. You guys take care, and thank you for giving me a chance to just run my mouth a bit.
No, Jay, you're great. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Y'all take care. All right, everybody else, we're going to stick around for a few minutes and open up the conversation to some action. So after listening to Jay and chatting a bit, I think the way these breakout sessions work, and I think Skip Newberry is out there, so I may need to ask him for support. I think we can come out of this maybe with some tangible ideas moving forward, a project that we can lead as TAO or help facilitate. So Skip, am I getting that part correct?
Yeah, no, you nailed it.
So how does it work? Because you've led these and I have not.
Well, I think just as you did, kind of opening it up and seeing if folks who were on the call earlier and involved in the discussion, if some idea resonated with them or got the wheels spinning, where they said, some of the stuff that Jay was talking about was really interesting, and I think we could move something forward here in Oregon, and it might look like X or Y, and it doesn't have to be fully baked at this.
Skip, you sort of cut out.
And see if there's a project or initiative that comes forward.
All right, well, I'll take notes. Any thoughts, comments, particularly around belonging and community, entrepreneurship, and some of the members of our Black tech community?
I think that this is Ralph Stevens. My company is the Stevens Leadership Group. I do leadership training and communication skills and service. And sometimes the word is invitation or feeling like you are invited. And some companies don't realize that the perception that they have created makes it appear to be a lack of interest. And so when I hear that there are no folks that are coming our way, it's because you don't really come across as welcoming for us to come to you. Maybe a poor example of this is at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce job fair. Clark County had a job booth. The city of Vancouver did not. The perception of the city of Vancouver is that Hispanics were not welcome. you were to go and talk to the mayor, she would go out of her mind to hear that. But she was the one who created the perception. So that is something that we need to actually be proactive in finding opportunities. And that's one of the things it is that I've observed, if you were looking for some thoughts.
I typed that. I actually said, the way I phrased it is, I'm invited, but there's a disconnect between words and actions.
That is correct. That perception is created, right? You have the option to create a much better perception of yourself and of your business.
Okay, that's great. Anybody else want to throw anything in there? Thoughts, comments?
I'll jump in. My name is Sabrina Freeman, and I work at SAFE, which is a workers' comp insurance carrier. We're based here in Oregon. In fact, we only work in Oregon. And my role is I'm the Safety Advancement and Innovation Manager.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a couple of things we're doing right now. We are putting together a safety innovation gathering in 2021. It's ways off. This will be our second one. And I'm really interested in finding folks who are doing work in safety innovation here in Oregon or nationally. And when we did the first one, I'm like looking back on it going, all of our speakers were men. Not all white, but they were all men. And I really want to switch that up and show and invite a broader range so that people get a better connection. So if folks have ideas about local connections, I'd appreciate that. And the other one is that we are doing a set of technology trials where we as an organization are trying to learn more about particular kinds of technology by pairing up with an actual business owner to try out that technology on their own site. It's things that would improve safety, although they can also improve other things as well. The connection to improve productivity is a big one as well. And I want to reach out to some groups. Just find, like, where are people meeting as businesses? Oddly enough, my background is completely in public health, not in business at all. So help with just thoughts about making some of those good connections. This is one place, but other places that I might reach out.
I'm taking that down as a note, and honestly, I have a thought, particularly when it comes to the intersection of race and some of these jobs, because I have a friend that runs a spinal rehabilitation center, and she said that in the last 4 weeks, it's really been pretty clear to her that a lot of these injuries are coming from industries that, again, have Latinx and Black overrepresentation, and that they're not even sure that they have the facility set up in a correct way to get somebody back on their feet, no pun intended. She may be really interesting for you to talk to, because she's seeing the injury side, and so the prevention side would be really probably a fascinating conversation.
That'd be fascinating, yeah.
I'm taking this as a note too. Anybody else? Any feedback for us as TIO? We think we're pretty welcoming, but what could we be doing to be better?
I have a question about your comment. What do you feel that you're doing right now that's making a difference, and how do you feel about the difference that's currently being made by TIO?
That's a really good question. I don't know that we have a great answer for the biggest difference that we're making. We have done some work internally. We have a team that is really committed to having these conversations. We've analyzed what members of the community we're supporting when it comes to our spend. We are going to go into a partnership with an organization that supports Black and Brown founders so that we can learn better how to do that. We have worked through some membership opportunities for diverse tech founders in terms of something very similar to what Jay said. If you are in a pre-revenue situation and you are trying to build your network, and there's so many different options of classes and whatnot, can we provide that ecosystem for you to meet individuals that have exited companies or grown companies and provide some of that sense of community and belonging, even if right now those folks do not look like you. So we're looking at how we can support the Black and Brown tech community more as a convener, and I can elaborate on that. Like, we know that many of our members are small and they have a small number of underrepresented employees that have great resource groups, but is there a way for us to aggregate that so that TAO can help provide those connections for tech folks that are Black and Brown across the state, so that we actually do make sure that we're saying, hey, you're welcome to join us. We want you here. We'll provide a space where you can connect with each other, but also a way for us to connect together. And I like that Jay said that, like, we have to be willing to say that some of these things are hard. And, you know, candidly, we do not have a Black employee that could run anything like that right now. So we would be asking volunteers. So I hope that answered the question. I mean, those are some of the things that we're doing, and really want to be able to say, you know, this is what our community looks like. We want to help the tech community in Oregon change what that looks like in terms of leadership and board service, and not just for us, but across the whole footprint. And we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, well, thank you for that summary. My only encouragement is that when you put together your plan, that whatever it is that you consider to be mission accomplished is to actually answer the question, so what? So you did the activity, and to just make sure that you feel good and that the people that you are trying to work with, that there is there's an outcome, and the outcome is not the activity, but the outcome is, and we want to do that before we even get started, right?
100%.
So, yeah, but that is sometimes the concern is look at me, look at what it is that I did. It was completely ineffective, but I still want love and points because of my activities. And I had a booth at the Owami job fair. Well, that's real nice. You have 400 employees and 0 are Black, but hey, you tried, you know, so you know what I mean? So I just think I would encourage you. I would encourage you to make sure that the outcome that you are looking for, after you feel you've got it, you've answered the question, so what difference was made, and the people that you're touching, to actually get back with them and they feel good about the effort being made.
No, I mean, that's 100%, like, what are we trying to accomplish and achieve? And then again, like with what Jay said about the focus, like, we're tech, we're the tech industry, like, that's who we support. And so how do we do that in a way that's meaningful to the tech industry in Oregon? And, you know, when you think about what our mission is, which is to create an inclusive innovation economy in Oregon and Southwest Washington through tech, like, okay, that inclusive part needs some work. Like, and we need to figure out what that means and what that looks like. And if our community looks one way and our tech sector looks completely different, there's some metrics right there that you can follow. So I like this conversation, Ralph.
Well, to not tie everybody up, you and I can continue to chat.
We can continue. All right, so Pam said municipalities such as Eugene have several economic development business recruitment initiatives, including developing municipal broadband networks downtown to drive prices down by offering broadband choice. Very familiar with that project, Pam. My question in particular to this forum topic is what can the city be offering or support in tandem with municipal broadband access? Any particular advanced training, relocations, incentives? Just let us know sometime. I don't know the answer to that question, and I don't know if Skip maybe knows that, but I think I'm going to take that one and drop it in my document and maybe do a follow-up if that works for you. All right. Anything else? Any other final thoughts? We have lots of work to do, and it's exciting. It's exciting for me, at least. There's also something to holding your members accountable. Yes, Charmaine, that is a wonderful point. And that conversation comes up a lot around pledges, and we've actually started having this conversation when we look holistically at our programming. It's really easy to say, yeah, we should have a lunch and learn around cyber. And then we wind up having 12 of those over the course of the year, and then the year's over, and in the course of those 12, we only had white presenters. So what is that saying around our ability to hold our members accountable for helping us make our organization more inclusive by look and feel? So there's some conversations that we're having with different member companies who are really invested. You know, one example, and I'm gonna call on Justin on this, and I hope he's not embarrassed because I thought it was so astute. Justin does a lot of our registration pages, and the company that we currently use only has male and female options as your identifier for when you register for an event, and we don't feel like that's particularly inclusive. And so how can we talk to a member about that so that we are holding folks accountable? And I think those are really great conversations that we need to be having. And again, back to Ralph's point in the metrics, like what is it? Why did it matter? And what did we achieve? So that's a wonderful and astute point. Thank you very much. I'll keep right on talking. Anything else? Ralph's back.
I know, yeah, multitasking.
Hey, Cara, this is Skip. You know, one thing that Ralph also mentioned in an earlier comment that he made was, at least this is my interpretation of it. I felt like, Ralph, you were also saying it's important with the example you gave in Clark County and Vancouver to also make an effort, the tech industry needs to make an effort to essentially, I'm gonna use the phrase kind of like meet people where they are. Like, so it's not just inviting people into like tech companies or their spaces, but also the tech companies and their employees have to make a concerted effort to reach out to parts of the community that they want to engage with. And you gave the example, which I think is a great one, of like, you know, the Hispanic Metro Chamber does a job fair. Well, if a company or a city organization is very interested in connecting with that community, they should have a presence there. And if they don't, it sends a message.
It does. I mean, I use that as an example because it did send a message about my city, and it was heartbreaking to express that to our mayor. Skip, I want to mention a comment about your thoughts is when you talk about employees, now we're talking about the culture of an organization. What is the organization's culture? I'm not necessarily in favor of hiring somebody because we want to increase diversity. I think we should make every effort, but if the culture of the organization is that way, maybe one of my vice presidents is going to go over to Washington State University and go to the Black Student Union and talk to them about technology, or to talk to the college professors about what is it that they're doing Because if you're seeing no one coming out of these schools, then do we just go, well, okay, no one's coming out of schools, or do we try to make a difference that maybe isn't going to make a difference for another 3 to 5 years, but at least we're out there doing more with that word proactive than just, being present. So yes, I want to go to where the folks are. We have a tech company here. I won't say them. They've been around for 20 years. They've always come to me and says, well, could you help us find a Black employee? That's just not how it works. It's just not. And he literally is welcome to it. He's a friend of mine, but done nothing to be proactive. So I love how you phrased it, Skip, when you started talking about employees. But let me comment that gets back to the vision. Is that part of the culture of the organization, that we're going to ask our employees to be involved in helping us with diversity?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of where, for example, we as an organization can help in terms of working with our member companies to provide them with examples of opportunities that exist in the community for them to connect, right? So, like, I think of the example of Cara and I have been talking about an organization called Black and Brown Founders, which does a lot of really great programming. And you can attend if you're not Black or brown as an ally. And so the idea of, if we're serious about having the organization and all of its staff work on behalf of Black and brown entrepreneurs, it would be great to be able to see what's going on around the country in different communities where different community organizations are serving Black and brown founders. And so if we as an organization can attend and essentially shift our professional development spend for the year to enable our team to be able to participate in that, that would be great. And so to Cara's point earlier, we've been really looking in these internal conversations at ways that, we can use our limited resources in a way that's strategic in service to these outcomes. Because frankly, if we're not trained well or don't have the right connections or experience in terms of the people we're trying to help, then we're not going to be helpful. To your point, Ralph, about we need to make sure that we're achieving good outcomes here and not just going through the motions.
Well said. Well said. Thank you for that.
Oh, Justin came on camera. Do you want to add something, Justin?
I feel like TAO as an organization is working towards these steps. I think we are in a unique position to provide resources and opportunities to students in a capacity that they may not have otherwise had access to. We do 2 to 3 design sprints or hackathons a year. The design sprint we're going through in conjunction with this Techlandia Summit, we have an entire robotics team from a high school who joined, but we didn't reach out to them. So I think that's an untapped option for us to introduce tech as an option to all students everywhere. In addition to that, we've been looking at reaching out to Black Girls Code to see how we could partner with them on their different national hackathons that they host, just different opportunities to be a little more involved in community organizations that are already in contact with these individuals, and how we can, as an association, present things that are available to them and how we can participate in that more.
And Justin has been awesome support in this, so thank you.
Good job, Justin.
Ralph, we didn't share this, and Skip kind of alluded to it, but we are predominantly white staff, and we have taken some hours every week to sit down and have conversations internally about, our own racism and biases, and that has been a eye-opening experience to do in a workplace, because I personally have not ever done that before, and it's been really enlightening. But it's also, I think, allowed other people to feel comfortable wanting to get involved, and us making, you made the point, is it culturally embedded? And the answer is it will be.
Excellent.
So I unfortunately have to drop, which makes me sad. But Justin is the host, so if y'all want to stick around, he can keep facilitating the conversation. And I will look forward to getting back to some of y'all. And thank you so much for spending time with me and Jay. He is awesome. Like, he has 1,500. Before they opened the RCIE, they interviewed 1,500 Black entrepreneurs to see what would be most helpful. And it's really inspiring, the work that they're doing. So maybe at some point we can just copy them.
Well, it was nice talking to you. I appreciate your response and the effort that you have going forward. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you for your input, and thanks everybody for sticking around. And I look forward to seeing everybody soon. Justin, I don't know if y'all are going to stay on for a few more minutes, but thank you. And Ralph, I don't know if I'm going to see you at the design sprint tomorrow, but I hope we do. There's awesome solutions that are being pitched back. They're so exciting. And people have done a good job, like, thinking through like who the user is and how to make it more equitable. It's been really fascinating. I've enjoyed it immensely. All right, y'all have a good day.
Bye-bye.
I still have Cara's notes with me, so if anybody has any topics, questions, or anything they'd like to share with the group, I'm all ears, happy to continue the conversation. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the Zoom meeting, but all of our contact information is available on our website as well as the Techlandia Summit registration pages. So feel free to send us an email if we can follow up with you on anything. I'll talk to you later.